and welcome to Duncan Toplis On Air podcast. I'm Caroline Cleary, I'm Chief Marketing Officer at Duncan Toplis, and today I'm joined by Rachel Barrett, who is our Head of Academies and Director at Duncan Toplis. Today we're going to be discussing the 2025 Kreston Academies benchmarking report, which we've supported as a business annually for a period now. So welcome, Rachel.
Hi, Caroline.
Maybe we can start today by letting our listeners know what is the report and where does it come from?
Okay, so the Kreston benchmarking report is produced by a group of accountants that are part of the Kreston group. So we all work in the academy sector. So that means we have a far-reaching group of academy sector clients that we can draw from, and we gather all of their data in after the academy season, which is when we've done the external audits each year, and we analyse that data so that we can give some insights to all of our clients and also non-clients as well.
So we've just launched the 2025 edition in February. What were your initial thoughts on the outcome of this year's report?
So my initial thoughts were that the results weren't far from what we expected last year. The primary single academy trusts are faring as badly as we thought they would be, and they're about a breaking point. And it's the mats that the larger mats, not the smaller mats, but the larger mats that are thriving more. When I say thriving, that they're break even, that they're staying where they should be, but those are the ones that are surviving more in the current climate.
And so what were the key highlights, or I suppose takeouts from the report?
Yeah, I wouldn't really refer to them as highlights, but yeah, the key takeouts from the report is that a third of trusts are now holding less than 5% of reserves, 5% of income as reserves. Now that is quite a key figure because the ESFA consider 5% of reserves as being the minimum amount of trust reserves that they need to hold to operate effectively and to cushion them against any unexpected costs that they might have. So that is quite concerning. Another key takeout from the report, a key figure of the report, is that 58% of trusts are now making in-year deficits. Now that is actually triple of the amount of trusts making in-year deficits from 3 years ago. So since 2021, that is quite a huge increase.
And so you touched there on the results this year almost being what you expected to receive last year. Are there main differences between this year and last year's report that you've seen?
So actually the main differences aren't quite a positive thing, because normally we're doing this report and we sit there and go, oh, actually the results aren't quite as bad as they were in the previous year. Unfortunately, this year we are actually finding that the results are as pessimistic as we thought they would be last year. Like I say, the primary stats are really struggling now, and it's only the larger mats that have got a positive in-year outcome.
And I suppose from that, what are the trust's biggest concerns? So you've got single academy trusts, you've got multi-academy trusts, and they're looking at these, their own figures. And what are they concerned about?
Well, I think we're going back to the things I've already mentioned, and it's those dwindling reserves. So the biggest concern is those dwindling reserves, that they haven't got that buffer now for those shocks that they might have, and they're supposed to plan for anything that might come up, and they've looked up their risk registers. But you can't plan for absolutely everything. And as they see those reserves disappearing, there is that concern that they're going to manage something that might come along. Another concern, which is always a concern for trusts because it's their biggest cost, is teacher salaries. And we've seen over the years that they have been funded, but we haven't actually had notification being funded until quite late, which is really hard to plan for. In fact, this year, we only heard that the quite substantial teacher pay increase last year was only funded up to March 25. And even in the Kreston benchmarking report, we didn't find out that it was funded until the end of the year, until that had been released. So that is such a recent change. We also know as well that currently, they're not going to be funding any increases to NI costs or any increases to national minimum wage, which it will have an impact on trusts. And also next year's pay rises aren't going to be funded either. So that's going to be substantial cost to trusts, especially the smaller primary single academy trusts that actually have absolutely no wriggle room at the moment at all, and how they're going to fund teacher pay increases, I've absolutely no idea. Another concern that Academy trusts have had is that they seem to be rising by costs substantially more in the sector than the general economy as a whole. The per pupil costs have risen by 8% and they rose by 16% last year, whereas the CPI rates were only 2.2% this year and 6.7% last year. So the sector seems to be hit even more by rising costs than the general economy. Although Academy trusts to see fluctuations year on year, it does show a general trend that their other costs besides salary costs are increasing as well. So that is another concern for them.
And you've touched a couple of times on reserves. Why is it that reserves are shrinking so rapidly?
So I think it's a combination of the staff pay increases not being fully met by funding. And there's also the fact that we put on hold a lot of maintenance projects during lockdown. So I mean, it's still a hangover from the pandemic. And now those jobs have got to be done, but the costs have increased for those jobs. And there's just things that cannot be held off from anymore. And the funding isn't always there. So when the smaller trusts are having to apply for SIF funding, they have now got to contribute more to actually win those to win the funding for the projects anyway, but they can't hold off from those projects. So that's going to have an impact on reserves because they're going to have to contribute towards that.
You talked a little bit there about smaller trusts, and in the report it says that single academy trusts have been hit hardest by the cost rises. Why is that?
So single academy trusts have less ability to be agile should there be any shocks within the system, or if there's anything that changes. If they have pupil numbers that fall unexpectedly, they have less ability to be able to adjust quickly. They also have to have a certain amount of support costs, so they've got their HR, their accounts, that kind of thing in the background, that then they haven't got the size really to make them as efficient as they could be.
Okay, so we talked a lot about the challenging sector, results reflecting the fact this is a challenging environment for trusts. What were the positive outcomes from the report?
It was quite difficult to find that many positives, actually. I mean, the CO2 emissions per pupil have gone down, which is absolutely fantastic. That just shows how hard trusts are working, to try and make the best of a bad situation. And the trustees are making sure that they're considering that whenever they're doing anything. So that's really good that they're making those positive moves to bringing down CO2 emissions, to travel towards net zero and doing the job that they should be. The other thing as well, which is a little bit of a positive, is we talked quite a lot last year to our clients about the fact that the pupil numbers, the rolls were going down, pupils on roll were going down. It's not actually going to be as severe as they think it's going to be when we look at the data this year. So that's a bit of a positive, but it is actually still a downward trend.
And so from this, what do you think the future holds for the Academies sector?
It's quite concerning. What worries me is that we've got trusts now that are, so the single academy trusts that are now seeing that they can't actually survive on their own. They're going to want to join a multi-academy trust, but the funding for that's disappeared. So it does concern me what some of my clients that are now looking to move into a multi-academy trust, how that's going to happen. The government aren't having such a big push now towards trusts joining multi-academy trusts that we saw a couple of years ago, but I can't really see how the single academy trust can continue to operate in the way that they are without moving into a multi-academy trust. So I think there will still be that travel, but whether that's going to happen for some of them when they should do, I don't know.
And you talk there about the impact of what's happening in the sector and how that affects your clients and the work that you're doing with them to help them mitigate those risks and move into the future. What are you looking forward to in the next 12 months in terms of working with Academies? Because I know it's something that you really get excited about and energised about. What does the next 12 months look like?
Yeah, so me and the team, we all love working in the Academy sector. It's a sector that we're really passionate about. We enjoy working with the people. It's very much the people are focused on education. It's lovely to be a part of that and being a part of building the future for the students within those academy trusts. So we're looking forward to just supporting our clients. They come to us with all queries throughout the year, and we're always there for them. And we do like that constant conversation with such lovely clients.
Oh, that's fantastic. And thank you for sharing your insights with us today. It's always brilliant to talk to you about the Academies sector. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Caroline.